أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين السلام على المهدي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Previously, we were discussing the fifth sign, and that is the rising of the sun from the west. And we ended with the fact that during the beginning of the month of Ramadan, the end of the month of Sha'ban, there will be a lot of talk where a personality comes back to life and people start to wonder who this person is, where has he been, and this and that. And then the claim of Mahdawiyya comes to life because, the other signs have happened. And we said in the month of Ramadan, the sixth and most definite sign will happen in the month of Ramadan, and that is the call in the heavens, where Jibrael Ridwanullahi alayhi wa salamullahi alayhi will call in the heavens, and he would announce the name of Imam Al-Mahdi alayhi salam to everyone so he could put the rumors to rest. Now, when we look at this call in the heavens, there's a lot of talk and a lot of discussion regarding this sign, so please pay attention with me. Now, before I begin, there are a few more points I want to mention. For those who do research and read the narrations of the Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim, you have to be very mindful, because the Ahlul Bayt, when they talk about the call in the heavens, they gave it different names. For example, sometimes they call it the Sayha, the call, sometimes Al-Faz'a, the shock, sometimes Al-Nida. Again, in Arabic, in English, there's a huge difference, but it's like a caller as well. Or Munadi, someone who calls. And a lot of people assume that when they look at these narrations, they assume they all mean the same thing, which in fact they don't. Especially if we look at the ahadith from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and the ahadith from Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. For example, we have a hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, very similar to the hadith that we have regarding the call in the heavens, which we will look at in a moment. But the Prophet calls it Faz'a, a shock. And he says, when you hear the shock, stay in your houses, stay in your beds, cover your heads, close your window, close your doors, do not go outside. If you go outside, you'll perish. And the Prophet said it happens on the 15th of the month of Ramadan. So he's not talking about our Sayha. So it's perhaps we can expect a huge sounds, a shock that will take place close into the area of Dhuhr, where the Prophet says, do not go outside. Just maybe. But is he referring to the Sayha that we have in our books? No. So when you hear the word Faz'a or Sayha, you have to be very careful. Which one are we talking about? Just that point, keep it in mind. And the last point, or the third point I want to mention is, when we look at the call, the Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim, sometimes they give us a general feel of what the sound is about, what the call will be all about, the message of it. And sometimes it is more specific, as we will see. And the last point I want to mention before we start looking at the narrations of the Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim, the call in the heavens and Jibrael making that call is going to be a doubtful event, where a lot of people will lose their faith and they will deny the Imam altogether. So stay with me and let's see what the narrations tell us about this particular definite sign. Now, when we look at this sign and it being a definite, a compulsory sign to Dhuhr, we have a hadith from Imam As-Sadiq salamullah alayhi. He says, Al-Nida'u min al-Mahtoom. The call in the heavens is that which is definite. We have another hadith, the Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam, he also says, خَمْسٌ قَبْلَ قِيَامَ الْقَائِمِ. 5 signs before the Imam alayhi as-salam. And then he says, he mentions the first and the second, وَالْمُنَادِي يُنَادِي مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. And the call of the Imam salamullah alayhi in the heavens by his name. Another hadith, when a person asked him, Al-Nida'u haqq, is that call in the heavens, is it true? The Imam says, wallah, by Allah it is true. Hatta yasma'uhu kullu qawm, until everyone will hear that sound. I will end with one more hadith. The Imam Salamullah alayhi says, before the riser, there are 5 definite signs. خمس علامات محتومات. These signs are 100% definite. And then he mentions them, Al-Yamani was Sufyani, and then he says, was-Sayha. The Yamani, the Sufyani, which we spoke about, and the call in the heavens. So now we understood that the call in the heavens is definite, must happen, and it is the most definite sign. The other signs, they could happen, they could not happen. But the Sayha must happen, because people need to know who the Imam is. Now, as the content of the Sayha, what is it? So like I said, we have a hadith. Now, before I go into the content, let's look at the when will the Sayha happens. We have a hadith from Imam Al-Baqir Salamullah alayhi. He says, As-sayhatu la takun illa fi shahri Ramadan. The call in the heavens will not happen except in the month of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the month of Ramadan. وَهِيَ صَيْحَةُ جِبْرَائِيل إِلَى هَذَا الْخَلْقِ is the call of the Archangel Jibrael to humanity. In another hadith, the Imam explains even furthermore, because saying in the month of Ramadan could be at any given day. We have 30 days of the month of Ramadan, it could be any of these 30 days. But the Imam says no. As-sawtu fi shahri Ramadan. 1. It is in the month of Ramadan. 2. Fi laylatul Jum'ah. In the night of Friday. So the day that will come after the Sayha would be Friday. 23. Also 23rd. So the date, the month was given to us, the night was given to us, the day was given to us, and also which day it is, which Jum'ah it is. So Jum'ah, that will be 23rd of the month of Ramadan. And he says, فَلَا تَشُكُّ فِي ذَلِكَ. Do not doubt this. So when is the call going to happen? On the 23rd of the month of Ramadan, which is for us the night of Laylatul Qadr. So just before the morning prayer, Jibrael will call in the heavens and he would say that this person is the Mahdi, as we will see now. So when it comes to the content of the call, like I said, we have 2 sets of a hadith. One set of a hadith talks about a general message, and sets of a hadith talk about specific message. For example, when we look at the general message, we have a hadith, for example, and we have few of these hadith, mind you. From Amir al-Mu'mineen Salamullah alayhi says, إِذَا نَادَ مُنَادٍ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ أَنَّ الْحَقَّ فِي آلِ مُحَمَّدٍ. The caller would call that the truth is with the household of Muhammad. Again, that's a very general message. Everyone knows that. Whether you're Shia or Sunni, yeah, everyone knows the haqq with Ali Muhammad. Again, in another hadith, we hear the Imam saying when he was asked, كيف يكون النداء? How does the nida happen? What is the content? He says, ينادي مناد من السماء أول النهار. First, at the beginning of the day, a caller will call. ألا أن الحق في علي وشيعته. Truth is with Ali and his followers. ثم ينادي إبليس لعنه الله في آخر النهار. Then Iblis at the end of the day, on that same Friday, the beginning we hear the call of Jibrael. At the end of the day, we will hear the call of Iblis. And what does Iblis say, Satan? He says, ألا أن الحق في السفياني وشيعته. He will say, surely the truth is with Sufyani and his people. Again, that's very general because everyone knows that Sufyan is going to be a bad character. I will read one more so this picture becomes really clear for you before we go to the specifics. The hadith says, the Imam says, ألا إن الحق في علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام وشيعته. Again, it's kind of repeated that the truth is with Ali ibn Abi Talib and his followers. And he says, then Iblis would say what? He says, ألا إن الحق في عثمان بن عفان وشيعته. Now, obviously changed. First says Sufyani, now Uthman, the lineage of Uthman and his followers. These hadith are very general in their context when we look at the content of this call in the heavens. Now, to be more precise, when we look at the narrations of Ahl Bayt Salamullah alayhim, and you know this, that many times they give you a general hadith, depends on the situation, depends on who asks. And sometimes they are more specific. Again, depends on who asks and depends on the situation. Now, the more accurate and more authentic hadith we have in this regard, the ones that are actually more specific. So we have a hadith, for example, from Imam Al-Baqir Salamullah, Imam Sadiq Salamullah alayhi, he says, إِنَّهُ يُنَادِي بِإِسْمِ هَذَا الْأَمْرِ مُنَادٍ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. A caller will call by the name of the one who is leading this affair, which is the dhuhur of the Imam, the appearance of the Imam. أَلَا أَنَّ الْأَمْرِ, surely that the one in charge, لِفُلَانَ ibn Fulan. And this word Fulan ibn Fulan is a name of a person and his father's name. That's what Fulan ibn Fulan in Arabic means. Fulan, the son of Fulan. So this person, the son of this person. But the Imams do not mention his name, and that's a code from the Imams alayhim salam, because they want you to look at something else. Because everyone knows that the Imam's name is Muhammad ibn al-Hasan. Why isn't the Imam saying his name here? Why isn't Jibrael saying Muhammad ibn al-Hasan? Because he's not going to. He's going to say a different name. So stay with me. A hadith from Imam Al-Baqir Salamullah alayhi, he says, Yunadi munadi min as-sama. A caller from the heavens will call, which we know is going to be Jibrael alayhi salam. Fulan ibn Fulan huwa al-Mahdi. Or huwa al-Imam. Fulan, the son of Fulan, this person, the son of this person, is the Imam. بِإِسْمِهِ وَإِسْمِ أَبِيهِ. By his name and the name of his father. Again, another hadith, he says, the Imam says, so which I'm just trying to show you how there's so much emphasis on the name of the Imam. إِنَّ الْمُنَادِي يُنَادِي أَنَّ الْمَهْدِيَ مِنْ آلِ مُحَمَّدٍ. The caller will say that the Mahdi, the guider, is from the household of Ali Muhammad, the Savior. Fulan ibn Fulan. Fulan, this person, the son of this person, بِإِسْمِهِ وَإِسْمِ أَبِيهِ. Again, by his name and his father's name. Now, again, I ask the question, are they talking about the Imam that we know, or is it a different name? In another hadith, I'll end with this. He says, إِنَّ فُلَانْ هُوَ الْأَمِيرُ. The Imam Sadiq Salamullah alayhi says that Fulan is the Amir, is the one in charge. And obviously, Shaitan will bring his own name to throw people out of balance. Another point in this discussion, is this call going to be heard only by Muslims, only by Shia, only people in a specific region, or the whole world is going to hear it? Now, a person comes to Imam Sadiq Salamullah alayhi, and he says to him, this call in the heavens, khasun am am, is it general to everyone or is it specific to some people? The Imam says, amun, surely it is general to everyone. يَسْمَعُ كُلُّ قَوْمٍ بِلِسَانِهِمْ. Every person on earth, they will hear this call by their language. And if I want to make this even closer to you, please go watch the movie X-Men Apocalypse, which they put all our hadith in perspective. It's all about Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. If you watch the Apocalypse X-Men, then you'll know what these hadith actually mean. Another hadith, the Imam says, Yunadi munadi min as-sama' bism al-qa'im alayhi salam. A caller will call by the name of the Imam. So the emphasis on the name of the Imam. فَيَسْمَعُ مَنْ بِالْمَشْرِقِ وَمَنْ بِالْمَغْرِبِ. Whoever is the east and the west will hear that call. So it is for every human being, because Jibrael alayhi salam, when he calls, he makes a call in the heavens, everyone on earth will hear that call. And then Iblis will come at the end of the day, and he will also make a phone call. He'll also make a call where everyone will hear that call of Iblis la'natullahi alayhi. Which leads us to the last point I want to mention before we conclude, and that is the fitna, the sedation and the problems and the calamity that the Muslim will face when the name is said, and specifically the followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Because the Ahlul Bayt, the followers of the Ahlul Bayt, they're expecting Jibrael to announce the name of Imam Mahdi. He says Muhammad ibn Hassan is the Imam, which is not true. So let me bring your attention to one important point. The Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim, they have emphasized on the point, or on the fact, that Imam al-Mahdi has two names. One is known, Muhammad ibn al-Hassan, and one is hidden. And the hidden name will only be known to people at Dhuhur. And that's the name that Jibrael is going to call. And therefore we have a lot of hadith that forbids naming the Imam alayhi as-salam, which a lot of our scholars assume it is Imam Muhammad bin Hassan. That's why they, even when they write his name, they write Mim, Ha, Mim, Dal. They cut the name. Because why? Because we have a hadith that says it's forbidden on the Shia to say his name. But the Imams are not talking about this name, because this name everyone knows it. Even Sunnis knows it, because we have plenty of hadith from both sources that mention his name. But they're talking about the other name. And therefore, when you look at the hadith, the Imam says, he says, فَكَمْ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ مِنْ شَكٍ مُتَحَيِّرٍ. That day when the call happens, how many of people going to be lost, doubtful, they don't know what's going on. قَدْ هَوَى فِي النَّارِ. They will go to hellfire. Why? It's just a call. Why would people go to hellfire because of that call? Because the Shia would hear a name, they're going to reject. They will say, no, this cannot be the Mahdi. We know this person. We're not going to accept him. And for denying, people go to hell. And like I said, this is a very sensitive topic, a very lengthy one. Inshallah, we will try to discuss later as well. Again, we have a hadith even more specific that says that Imam Salamullah alayhi, his actual name and his actual kunya, it will not be revealed to people until Dhuhur. So what we have, we have the name of the Imam alayhi salam, we have his kunya. So why is the Imam saying that will not be exposed, will not be shown to people until Dhuhur? Because he's talking about the second name and the second kunya that people don't know. And I would end with this hadith. The Imam as-Sadiq salamullah alayh, when a person says to him, look, this affair is taking too long, our hearts are hardened and we miss the Imam and we feel pain and sorrow. When is the Dhuhr going to happen? And mind you, this guy is talking to Imam as-Sadiq, and Imam Mahdi hasn't even been born yet. His forefathers haven't been born yet. And he said, we are in this state of mind and mental state. The Imam says to him the following. He says to him, if you think that right now you're in despair and your heart is hardened and you're sad and sorrowful, then listen to this. The Imam says to him, إِنَّ هَذَا الْأَمْرَ آيَسُ مَا يَكُونَ. This affair, it's the most despairing moment is going to happen. وَأَشَدُّ غَمَّ. And the most sorrowful and sadful time of this affair, when is going to happen? Where people lose complete hope and they become in despair. Yes, like they give up completely. There is nothing left. He says, مناد ينادي مناد من السماء باسم القائم واسم أبيه. That's the reason why people despair and lose complete hope. Why? Because the caller would name the Imam and his father. And people do not expect that. They were expecting something else. They were expecting Muhammad ibn Hassan, but now he's giving them a completely different name known to them. And they know this person, they know him for being a good person, a bad person, that's a different issue. And people go and say, no, we can't accept that. Then the narrator says, the narrator is one of the close companions of Imam as-Sadiq salamullah alayhi. He said to him, well, what's his name? Now, obviously the companion, he knows the Imam's name. Everyone does. The Prophet said his name. All the Imams said his name, Muhammad ibn Hassan. Why is he asking for the name? Because he's asking for the second name. He's like, okay, if that's the case, people will despair because the name is going to be shocking to them. What is that name? Give me that name. The Imam said to him, no. He says to him, قال اسم نبي اسمه اسم نبي واسم أبيه اسم وصي. His father's name, his name is a name of a prophet, and his father's name a name of a wasi, a successor, which he means Muhammad ibn Hassan. So he brought him back to the same thing that people know. So the Imam here, he's just giving you a hint and a code, as I always say. He wants you to think outside the box. Go search. Go read more hadith in this regard. Because that's the moment when the name is announced and people not expecting that name, that's when rejection happens. And therefore you would read many hadith from the Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim, emphasizing on the fact, whatever you hear in the first call, stay with that call. Do not get fooled by the second call by shaitan at the end of the day. Because some person comes to the Imam, says to him, If the name of the Imam is going to be announced publicly, why would people deny it? He says, because Shaitan would not let them. He will put doubts in their minds. How does he put doubts in their minds? By bringing another name they are familiar with, they love, and they think is a good person. While the first one, it could be the opposite. So people start to think, well, maybe the second one is the correct one. So Shaitan would not let people without doubt. Now, how? That's a search you have to do on your own. But what you need to know, the first call, whatever name you hear in the first call, that is the Imam, and that's it. So do not worry about the rest. Inshallah, we will continue the rest of the definite signs of Imam Mahdi Salamullahi alayhi in the episodes to come. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.